Hello and welcome to Dog Day Chess. In this episode, we're going to look at the idea of eliminating the Indian bishop to create a weak color complex around your opponent's king. The king's Indian attack and the king's Indian defense both involve castling to the side of a fianchettoed bishop. The fianchettoed bishop, or the Indian bishop, is very important in these positions because it watches over the color complex that was weakened by this pawn push. In this example, the black bishop watches over these dark squares that would normally be defended by the g-pawn if it were still on g7. Consequently, this bishop often becomes a target for the opponent. So if you're playing someone who has this setup, it's usually a good idea to try to eliminate this Indian bishop. Now, you sometimes have to do a little preparation before you can eliminate it. So let's step back a few moves to see how I prepared for it in this game. Here, black fianchettoed his bishop, so I developed mine to e3. This gave me the option to create a queen-bishop battery along this diagonal in case black continued with the king's Indian defense. You'll see why this is useful. Then black moved his king-knight out, preparing to castle kingside, and I followed up by making my battery. And after black castled, I immediately attacked the Indian bishop. This move essentially forces black to exchange his bishop, because if he moves it to safety, then I can capture the rook. After a couple of more moves, the bishops were exchanged. Now the dark squares around the black king are weak, and I took advantage of that several times during the remainder of this game. For example, if we skip ahead a few moves, we see that my pawn and my knight are sitting quite comfortably on these dark squares, cramping the black king's position. Black no longer has a dark squared bishop to help contest these squares. Skipping ahead further still, we see that the king itself is occupying g7, rather than some other black piece that could be helping to protect the king. This allowed me to fork the king with a rook and win a pawn. Ultimately, black's weaker king position allowed me to win the game. In this game, I was rewarded almost immediately for eliminating the Indian bishop. After the bishops were exchanged here on h6, the dark squares around the black king became weak, and there was nothing black could do to remove my queen from her imposing position. Black continued by pushing his a-pawn, but there was a dangerous threat that he should have taken care of instead. The threat was knight to g5. After I played that move, black resigned because there was nothing he could do to stop the mate. For example, if he moved his rook over to try to give his king a little more space, then queen to h7 and then queen to f7 would win. So those were a couple of examples showing how to eliminate an Indian bishop to create a weak color complex around your opponent's king, and showing how to capitalize on the weak color complex that you created. As always, I hope you learned something from this episode, and thanks for watching.